So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about that M1 MacBook Air that released basically about a year ago. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because this is still the computer that I recommend to 99% of people looking to get into the Apple ecosystem, looking to just get a laptop for school, looking to get a home laptop just for fun or just to get some work done around the house, because this thing is still a beast even with these new M1 Pros and M1 Macs that are now out there. And even though I'm a huge iPad Pro and iPadOS advocate, I still recommend this one-year-old M1 MacBook Air, the baseline model, over anything else out on the market. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. So without further ado, let's figure out why exactly this M1 MacBook Air could be the right computer for you. Let's get into it. So first off, if you guys enjoyed that intro, feel free to leave a thumbs up button or a comment down below. I love making that little intro. We might do a couple more of those. But to start off, I do want to mention exactly which M1 MacBook Air I do have. And the one that I personally have is the baseline model. So we're dealing with the M1 processor, 8GB of RAM, and then 256GB of storage. And I got it in that space gray variant, which again, those space gray colors are always changing in terms of different hues and tints. But that is the model that I've had since it released, or I think I got it maybe a month after release. So it's been with me for about 10 to 11 months now at this point. And honestly, I love this thing. Like, for a laptop, this is the best thing money can buy. And that's the number one feature of this thing, right? Because again, if we first talk about the design is very familiar, right? It's all aluminum, one solid piece of aluminum. It's cool to the touch. It's got that nice Apple aesthetic. It's got the large trackpad, the new chiclet style keyboard, or the old new. So it's got great key travel, and all the hardware is finally, it's great hardware. Like, it's built by Apple, made by Apple, whatever, designed in California, however they kind of like to write it down on a little piece of paper now. But you guys know what you're getting yourselves into when you buy an Apple product. You're getting very quality hardware coming from Apple. But in my opinion, the number one feature of this laptop is the price to value kind of component that you get from it, right? Well, first off, I'm going to try to help everybody try to get this for $100 cheaper. This usually works in the US and the UK. I'm not sure where else around the world this works. But if you go to the Apple Store, go all the way down, click on the Education Store, you can actually get this for $100 off, right? So instead of paying $1,000, you're paying $900, and Apple doesn't verify anything, right? I'm not part of an EDU, I'm not part of a school, I'm not a student anymore. And when you order something online through the Education Store, there's zero verification. So you just go in there, add it to your cart. You can still do it while trading in an older computer, and you can also finance it on an Apple Card. So if you really want to, you can get this thing pretty cheap if you have something of high value to trade into Apple, and if you have the Apple Card. So the barrier to entry is very low with this computer. So now we're talking about a $900 computer versus $1,000, and then look at what else is on the market out there. For $900, what can you get your hands on, right? Even in the Apple side, you can maybe get an 11-inch iPad Pro with a slim folio case for a little over $1,000. On the Windows side, I don't really know what $900 gets you. You can get some sort of Surface Go or some sort of Surface Pro or something like that for $900, or a used Surface 7 maybe, things like that. But again, the amount of sheer power that you're getting with the M1 processor is what makes this computer so valuable, right? And then to compare it to the iPad Pro, which is my main computer, it's a lot less expensive, because with the 13-inch iPad Pro or the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, that starts at $1,100, right? And you get 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So if you want more storage, you're spending another $150. If you want a Magic Keyboard, that's $350. If you want an Apple Pencil, that's another $130. So all in all, you're spending about $1,500 to $1,700 on your iPad Pro laptop versus spending $900 on the actual MacBook Air, which already has a built-in trackpad, a built-in keyboard. Yes, it doesn't have a touchscreen, and the webcam isn't amazing, but again, for $900, it's so hard to beat this M1 MacBook Air. And the thing that's impressed me the most about this M1 MacBook Air is just how well it works, right? How well every application that you throw at it and how well it runs. So obviously, when you have Apple's native applications, you're expecting those to run perfectly. You're expecting those to run efficiently, run immediately, run very smoothly, and they do. So like, I use Apple Notes all the time. It opens immediately. It syncs across all my devices. I'm a big Safari user. All my bookmarks are there. Everything opens and functions exactly as you expect. I use Pages and Numbers and kind of like the iWork suite. So all those things work as expected. But now you're probably gonna ask me, hey Fernando, like, I don't use any real Apple native applications. Does it still work with like the Microsoft suite? Does it still work with Google Docs? And does it still work as a good web OS machine, right? And first off, on the Microsoft side, this thing flies. It absolutely flies. And I wanna put this side by side with any of the newer Windows 11 computers. And I wanna see how quickly or how much faster the M1 MacBook Air opens these applications versus something like a Windows 11 computer from this year, from 2021. So overall, I've been extremely impressed with everything that I've thrown at it. Now, I don't personally edit too many videos on here. I know I have LumaFusion on here, so that's another thing. You can actually download iPad and iPhone applications onto the new M1 MacBook Airs. I don't really do that, but I do have LumaFusion on there. And once you get it all edited, it renders very, very fast, right? And then you have iMovie, which is amazing in terms of a beginning video editor. So I like to think that I'm a great middle ground in between the creative side and also the business professional side, because that's what I do on a daily basis, right? You can go from editing something in 4K, 30, 60 FPS, to then going to 8 to 10 different PowerPoints open at the same time, running smoothly, running efficiently, and it's absolutely amazing. So that is what's been so impressive, is just how much better just replacing the chip from an Intel to an M1 has made these computers just kind of magnificent for the price. So if you're a student or an entry-level user or somebody who's getting their first laptop and has about $1,000 to spend, my recommendation is going to be the baseline M1 MacBook Air, right? It has everything you would need. Like I said, from a hardware perspective, it's got a great Retina display, it's got the keyboard, it's got the large trackpad, you have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the left side of the actual laptop and then 1 headphone jack on the right. So from a peripheral standpoint, yes, you're going to deal with dongles, but that's just something that comes with the territory unless you start to spend $2,000, $3,000 on those new M1 Pros and M1 Maxes. But again, from a hardware perspective, these things are great. And then macOS is just getting better and better, right? It's so efficient, so fast. The battery on this thing is absolutely unreal. Like I'll take it for a weekend trip. I don't even bring my charger. Like I don't need my charger and I still end up after 2 days in like the high 30%, right? And I'm still using it pretty regularly, right? So that's what's crazy about this thing. The amount of efficiency gains, the price to performance ratio is amazing. It's a familiar design. There's very little learning curve. Even if you're coming from Windows or from an iPhone or from an iPad, the learning curve is very, very small. So that is my recommendation and my overall thoughts on the MacBook Air. The one real big negative that I've noticed with the M1 MacBook Airs is the lack of dual display support. So that is the one thing that I do want to mention to everybody. So with one secondary monitor like I have hooked up behind me, it's going to work perfectly, right? I have a 32-inch BenQ monitor that's attached with 1 Thunderbolt cable that goes directly into the monitor and directly into the MacBook Air. But the second you get another secondary monitor that is not the actual native screen, it doesn't work, right? That is a limitation of the M1 chip. It's not a limitation of anything else. None of the hardware, none of the monitors that you're using are messing it up. It is the M1 chip. Now there are ways to bypass. I think Dual Link has some like hardware kind of snap-ons that are like $100 or $150 or something like that. I haven't played with it. I've seen it work online, but natively, the M1 MacBook Air is only going to support up to 1 external display. Now you can hook up that Pro Display XDR, that $6,000 display, and it'll work perfectly fine. But just know that if you have a dual monitor setup and you like to have your laptop in clamshell mode, it's not going to work that well. Like it'll maybe work, but then the second monitor is actually going to have like a weird broken image of the desktop. I've tried it before. It doesn't look pretty. That is the one detriment, that it natively doesn't support dual monitors. But if you're okay with that and you're just going to use it as a laptop or maybe sometimes plug it into a monitor, it's going to work perfectly fine. But that is my overall thoughts on the MacBook Air. I just love it for the price to performance ratio. That is the number one thing, and very little learning curve for anybody trying to jump into the Apple ecosystem. But let's finish up this video. So that's pretty much going to do it for this video, everybody. Like you saw, the M1 MacBook Air, even in its baseline variant with only 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, that thing flies. It flies with anything that you throw at it. You can video edit on it. You can use all the Microsoft applications on it. Obviously, you can use all of Apple's native applications like their productivity suite with iWork and things like that. And then it also works great as kind of like a Chromebook or a web-based computer because you can still do all of your Google Documents. You can still share and collaborate online as long as you have an internet connection. And also, Safari on this thing absolutely flies. So that's the biggest thing with this computer. Everything you throw at it is going to be able to run, and it's going to be able to run it relatively well, and well enough for you to get anything you need done. Whether that is editing a 4K video in Final Cut Pro or in iMovie, or it is kind of having 6, 7, 8 PowerPoints open at the same time. And I like to think I'm a pretty good advocate of kind of meshing that middle ground between kind of that creative side, but then also that professional side as well. And I absolutely love this computer for what it's worth and what you get out of it. Because again, if you go through the Apple Education Store, you get $100 off that baseline, and you can still trade in an old product, and you can still finance it with the Apple Card. So in my case, I'm actually only paying like $18 a month for this computer over 12 months, which is kind of crazy to think about, and I think I'm almost done paying it off. I think I only have like another month or two. But again, that is my review on the M1 MacBook Air, the baseline, why you should be looking to get it. This holiday season, I'm sure Apple's going to have some nice deals. Maybe they'll throw in new AirPods and things like that. So be on the lookout, and maybe look around Amazon. Amazon might have some good Black Friday deals on Apple products as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys learned something new. and maybe I was able to sway you a little bit into kind of taking that plunge into it, because for the value, it's hard to beat this thing, guys. But that's gonna do it for this video. Until next time, leave a comment down below. Do you guys own a MacBook? Which one do you guys own? Are you looking to upgrade? Why would you upgrade? Always curious to know. But until next time, peace.